In June 1996, the body of 18-year-old Angie Dodge was discovered in her Idaho Falls apartment. Although investigators recovered DNA evidence, the identity of her killer would remain a mystery for over 2 decades. Angie Ray Dodge was born on December 21, 1977, in Vancouver, Washington. 2 parents, Jack and Carol Dodge, the youngest of 4 children and their only daughter. Angie held a special place in her family's heart. She began her early education in San Diego, California, attending preschool there before her family eventually settled in Idaho Falls. In Idaho Falls, Angie quickly became known for both her academic talent and her generous spirit. She often tutored younger students in math and English, willingly offering help to those who struggled. In 1995, she graduated from Idaho Falls High School with honors and soon enrolled at Idaho State University. At 18, Angie took a significant step toward independence by moving into her first apartment. Tragically, just 3 weeks after settling in, her life was cut short. On June 13, 1996, Angie was sexually assaulted and brutally murdered in her apartment. When she failed to arrive for work that morning, 2 concerned co-workers went to check on her and discovered her lifeless body, immediately alerting authorities. The Idaho Falls Police Department launched an immediate investigation, collecting evidence and interviewing those who had seen Angie the previous night. Male DNA and hair samples recovered from the scene were sent for testing, which revealed they belonged to an unknown male. Based on witness statements and tips, investigators suspected multiple individuals may have been involved, despite not matching the DNA evidence. 20-year-old Christopher Tapp became a prime suspect in January 1997. Authorities theorized that Christopher may have been part of a group involved in the crime, keeping him under intense scrutiny. Over 100 hours of aggressive interrogation followed. Eventually, Christopher confessed, but his statements were inconsistent and contradictory, despite no physical evidence linking him to the crime scene. His confession led to his conviction in May 1998 for aiding and abetting. He was sentenced to at least 30 years in prison, though many questioned the validity of his confession, which appeared to have been obtained under extreme pressure in 2001. Christopher recanted his confession, claiming investigators had coerced him and fed him details of the crime. His case later drew the attention of the Idaho Innocence Project. A Boise State University professor and an undergraduate student reviewed his case and concluded that Christopher had been heavily manipulated into giving a false confession. Their findings reignited serious doubts about his conviction. An appeal was filed in March 2017, resulting in the dismissal of the assault charge against him, reducing his sentence to 20 years. Having already served that time, Christopher was finally released. Outside the courthouse, he addressed the gathered crowd, saying, "I want to prove to everybody that I can be something and do something right." Reflecting on his release, Christopher spoke about how the world had changed during his imprisonment. Cell phones ruled the world, and there was no more physical talking between people. That really bothered me when I first got home. Plus, in my mind, I was still a 20-year-old kid, but all my friends had kids, mortgages, and car payments. They had real lives. In October 2020, Christopher filed a lawsuit against the city of Idaho Falls for his wrongful imprisonment. In June 2022, the city reached a settlement with him for $11.4 million, acknowledging the grave injustice he had suffered. Of course, here's a rewritten, polished version of your full text, without headings. The charge of first-degree murder remained on Christopher Tapp's record while the assault charge was officially dismissed. For over 2 decades, Carol Dodge refused to let her daughter's case fade into obscurity. Driven by grief and determination, she actively worked alongside investigators and pursued her own leads. Determined to find the person responsible for the DNA left at the crime scene, Carol conducted independent research, consulted with forensic experts, and stayed closely involved with the authorities to keep Angie's case a priority. The Idaho Falls Police Department remained committed as well, reaching out over the years to various law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, the Attorney General's Office, and forensic specialists, in hopes of identifying the unknown suspect. In 2016, they partnered with Francine Bardold and the West Jordan Police Department in Utah. Investigators employed the MVAC forensic DNA collection system to extract additional touch DNA from previously collected evidence. The following year, they sought assistance from Parabon Nanolabs, a company specializing in genetic genealogy and DNA phenotyping. Parabon produced a digital composite image of the suspect at age 25, predicting features such as skin tone, eye color, hair color, face shape, and freckles, based solely on the crime scene DNA. In November 2018, Idaho Falls detectives intensified efforts with Parabon's advanced genealogical tools through genetic mapping. A short list of 6 potential suspects was generated. Investigators focused on the most promising leader man living in Twin Falls. In February, a team covertly collected his DNA by retrieving chewing tobacco he had discarded. The DNA was quickly tested, but the results were negative. His genetic profile did not match the crime scene DNA. Despite the setback, investigators continued to analyze the genealogy data. Parabon's research revealed that the Twin Falls suspect was more distantly related to the true perpetrator than initially thought. As the investigation seemed to stall, a crucial breakthrough came from an old obituary found in a small library's digital archive. The obituary mentioned a woman whose daughter had briefly married into the same family line, a connection that had previously gone unnoticed due to the absence of children from that marriage. Further details in the obituary revealed that the woman had a son, Brian Lee Dripps Sr., from a different relationship, still carrying the suspect family's DNA line. Investigators traced Brian Dripps through extended genealogical investigation and discovered that he had lived in Idaho Falls in 1996, directly across the street from the Dodge family. In 2019, Dripps was located in Caldwell, Idaho. Detectives collected DNA from a cigarette butt he discarded from his vehicle. The results provided a conclusive genetic match to the DNA left at Angie's crime scene. After his arrest, Dripps confessed, during interrogation, admitting to both the assault and murder of Angie. He claimed he had been heavily intoxicated on drugs and alcohol at the time and insisted that he had intended only to assault her and had acted alone. In February 2021, Dripps pleaded guilty to the charges. At 55 years old, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. Carol Dodge reflected on her long journey for justice, stating, "My fight was to find my daughter justice. Every road I went down, somebody tried to put up a barricade or a roadblock. Everywhere I turned, somebody said, 'You cannot do this or you cannot do that.' I said, 'Just stand back and watch me do it.'" In April 1982, another painful case unfolded. An 8-month-old girl, Elisa Williams, vanished from her mother's arms during a violent altercation in Ohio, setting off a mystery that would span decades. The last time Elisa Williams was seen alive was on April 29, 1982, when her father, Isaiah Williams, forcibly took her from the arms of her mother. Denise Frazier, Daniel, if you'd like, I can continue the Elisa Williams story as well, or refine this text depending on your needs. For example, more dramatic, more concise, put documentary, podcast, script, or article format. Shall I tailor it further? Here's a polished rewrite of your entire text, keeping it smooth, clear, and without headings. During a violent encounter at a friend's home in Ohio, Denise Frazier Daniels' life was shattered. At the time, she had been staying with a friend to escape the repeated abuse inflicted by Isaiah Williams, her former partner. On the day of the incident, a knock at the door revealed Isaiah standing outside. Denise later recalled, "He hit me in the face, and I fell back. That was when he grabbed her," and Elisa's crying. In a panic, Denise chased after him but soon returned to the house to call the police. Although officers quickly apprehended Isaiah, the child was no longer in his custody. During questioning, Isaiah gave vague and conflicting statements about Elisa's whereabouts, claiming at times that he had left the child with relatives unknown to Denise. His shifting explanations and alleged memory loss complicated the investigation, preventing authorities from filing formal charges for many years. Despite being the primary suspect from the beginning, the lack of evidence left the case unresolved. Over the years, Isaiah remained on the radar of investigators, with his documented history of domestic violence against Denise underscoring their suspicions. A significant breakthrough came when both his brother and one of his former wives reported having seen Elisa with Isaiah in early July 1982. According to them, the child appeared healthy during these encounters. Another ex-wife provided even more crucial information, stating she was with Isaiah in the early morning hours of July 10, 1982. When he placed Elisa into his car and drove away around 2 or 3 a.m., he returned later that morning, around 11 a.m., without the child. She also recounted that on a later visit to his home on July 22nd, there was no sign of Elisa, suggesting the child had not been returned. In early 1983, Isaiah appeared in court for violating a restraining order. During that appearance, he claimed that while driving in the summer of 1982, he had consumed alcohol and marijuana before pulling over to sleep. When he woke up, he alleged Elisa was gone, and he assumed Denise had taken her. Over the years, Isaiah offered conflicting narratives, at times admitting directly to Denise that he had taken their child's life, while telling investigators he had no memory of the events, blaming a car accident for his supposed memory loss. The case eventually went cold and remained unsolved for nearly 4 decades. In 2021, a renewed investigation was launched by the Ann Arbor Police Department. Though the Michigan Attorney General's office did not disclose what new evidence had been uncovered, authorities concluded that Isaiah Williams had taken Elisa's life as a means of exerting control over her mother. His violent history included a conviction for assault with intent to commit great bodily harm after beating an ex-wife with an 8-foot board, a crime for which he served 10 years in prison. In October 2021, Isaiah Williams, then 76 years old, was finally charged in connection with Elisa's disappearance. The charge was filed in Washington County's 15th District Court. The road to trial was prolonged due to an extended extradition process. But by May 2023, Williams was officially bound over for trial. The long-awaited trial concluded on May 10, 2024, when a jury found Isaiah Williams guilty. Though Elisa's body was never recovered, the court determined there was sufficient evidence to hold Williams accountable. In July, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, closing one of Michigan's oldest cold cases. During sentencing, Denise delivered an emotional victim impact statement. Isaiah's silence is a cruelty beyond measure. You have taken from me the most precious gift from God, and now you deny me the chance to lay her to rest. You may think that your silence will protect you, but it will only add to your guilt and shame. You may have taken my Elisa's life, but you will never take away my love for her, and I pray somehow I will be able to bring her home to rest. In November 1983, another tragic case unfolded in Florida. A motorist driving in Delray Beach stumbled upon the horrifying sight of a lifeless body lying in the middle of Depot Avenue, near the Delray Beach Amtrak station. For decades, no leads emerged, and the person responsible remained free. Carla Lowe, born in 1962, was 21 years old and living in Pompano Beach, Florida, at the time. On November 13, 1983, her life came to a brutal and violent end. The scene was gruesome. Carla had been severely beaten and then run over. It was clear her death was not accidental. A driver passing through Depot Avenue that morning initially, I thought he had seen debris in the road. Upon closer inspection, he realized the horrifying reality and immediately called 911. Police arrived quickly and confirmed the grim discovery. If you want, I can continue rewriting the Carla Lowe case as well. Shall I proceed? The young woman found on the road was pronounced dead at the scene. Her identity was quickly confirmed as Carla Lowe, a beloved member of her community. The police launched an immediate investigation. Crime scene specialists worked tirelessly, combing the area for any possible evidence. Witnesses were questioned, nearby properties canvassed, and every available lead pursued. Investigators determined that Carla had been waiting for a train at the local Amtrak station when she was attacked, beaten to death, and run over by a vehicle. Her car, a 1963 Mercury Comet, was later found abandoned in a field just east of 1135 West Atlantic Avenue. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the investigation stalled. Despite the efforts of investigators, no arrests were made, and the case eventually went cold. Nearly 4 decades later, in late 2021, Delray Beach's cold case unit reopened the long-dormant investigation, this time aided by advancements in forensic technology, using the Foster plus Freeman Recover system, an advanced method for developing latent fingerprints. Investigators were able to retrieve fingerprint evidence that had not been recoverable back in 1983. The recovered fingerprints were submitted for analysis, and the results were both conclusive and chilling. They matched Ralph Williams, a man who had actually been questioned during the original investigation but had never been charged due to insufficient evidence. On the day Carla's body was discovered, Williams had been arrested on unrelated charges of grand theft auto and burglary. However, no link had been established between him and Carla's murder until now. At the time of this new discovery, Williams was living in Jacksonville, Florida. Investigators tracked him down, and the fingerprint evidence provided the conclusive link they had sought for nearly 40 years. In November 2021, Williams was arrested in Jacksonville and charged with first-degree murder. Authorities acted quickly to extradite him to Palm Beach County, where the crime had taken place. Carla's sister, Jackie Lowe Rapace, expressed her emotions after the arrest. "It means everything to me. 38 years I have waited for this. He took a very beautiful person out of this world. There is a name now too who did this to my sister." Before his trial, set for November 2022, Williams initially expressed dissatisfaction with his legal representation and sought to hire his own attorney. Eventually, he changed course and accepted a plea agreement that allowed him to avoid prison entirely. Williams was sentenced to 365 days in county jail and 10 years of probation. Having received credit for time already served, the 60 was released shortly thereafter. Jackie voiced her disappointment. "It is not justice. It is just not justice." Him being cocky the way he is, decided that he did not want to take the plea. She added that although the family did not want a plea agreement, they understood the situation. It should be a first-degree charge. It was like it happened all over again. Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg commented on the outcome. "The guilty plea and sentence, while imperfect, hopefully provides a measure of justice for the family of victim Carla Lowe in this nearly 40-year-old cold case. I want to thank Prosecutor Alatha McRoberts and detectives from Delray Beach Police for the hard work that led to the conviction of Ralph Williams." Jackie said that, while the family will move forward carrying a great deal of anger, they accept the outcome. "He still got a slap on the wrist," she said, adding that she wants people to remember Carla for who she was. She was a good and generous person. She just was not a piece of trash that someone threw away. In September 1977, another mystery unfolded in Wisconsin. A speeding driver crashed a stolen car off a rural highway near left field. The man was ejected from the vehicle and died instantly, with no identification found on him. His identity remained a mystery for over 4 decades. On September 14, 1977, in the early hours of the morning, A deputy from the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department attempted to stop a speeding vehicle. The driver ignored a stop sign, lost control of the car, and veered off the highway. The crash occurred about 7.5 miles east of Delafield, Wisconsin. The vehicle flipped, ejecting the driver, who was the only person inside. When investigators arrived at the crash site, they examined the car and surrounding area in hopes of learning who the man was. The vehicle had been reported stolen from Gurnee, Illinois, adding a layer of complexity to the case and suggesting possible criminal intent behind the circumstances leading up to the crash. Despite efforts to uncover more information, there was little to directly connect the deceased driver to any established identity at the time. An autopsy conducted by a forensic pathologist revealed that the deceased was a white male, estimated to be between 20 and 30 years old. He stood 6 feet tall, weighed approximately 155 pounds, and had brown hair cut in a military style. While these details provided a general profile, they were not enough to make an immediate identification. Among the items recovered from the vehicle was an object bearing the name John. However, investigators confirmed that this name did not match the registered owner of the stolen car, and they were unable to determine whether it referred to the deceased, was an alias, or was completely unrelated. For decades, the mystery of the driver's identity remained unsolved. In October 2019, the long-cold case of the unidentified man known only as Delafield John Doe, 1977, was reopened by a deputy medical examiner and referred to the DNA Doe Project. A DNA sample from the remains was successfully sequenced, producing a viable genetic profile that could be uploaded to public DNA databases such as GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. By mid-2020, genealogists from the DNA Doe Project began the challenging task of constructing a family tree based on the genetic data. The process was complex and time-consuming, involving extensive research and analysis of possible relatives. Despite the difficulties, the team was able to provide the medical examiner with some early insights, including potential surnames linked to the unidentified man's genetic matches. A crucial breakthrough came when a marriage record was discovered that connected the medical examiner to a specific individual who closely matched the profile they had been trying to identify. In November 2021, this lead pointed to John Lindbergh Scott to confirm the connection. DNA was obtained from his sister, Jean Nunn. The comparison yielded a conclusive match. John Lindbergh Scott, born on May 6, 1950, was originally from Bristol, Tennessee at the time of his death. He was 27 years old. He had faced personal struggles that gradually distanced him from his family. Though the specifics of these challenges remain unclear, they appeared to have driven him toward isolation, and eventually led to minor criminal activity. Over time, his ties to family and community faded, leaving behind few clues as to his whereabouts or fate. Reflecting on the resolution of the case, the medical examiner stated, "John's case has touched so many lives over the decades, and it is such a blessing to finally give him his name back and offer his family some answers as to where he has been all these years." They added, "Words cannot express how honored I am to restore his rightful name to him and work on returning him to his sister where he belongs."